Well, I've been doing a bit of wood lathing. Lathe. I've been using this. My brother and my grandfather rigged this thing up probably in the 1990s or so. And my brother did some turning with it, and I've just been carrying it around kind of in my piles of tools and stuff ever since. And just this year started to get into doing a little turning. So I had to make a spindle. It's over there. I had to make a spindle for the antique piano stool, and I thought I'd try to make it myself on a lathe. So I dug it out, went at it, had a lot of fun, been doing lots of turning. So what that's done is sort of highlight some of the shortcomings of such a teeny little lathe. Now, you see, here's my hand. I can basically stick the entire headstock like in my hand. So it's a very small little lathe. It only has about a 3.5 or 4 inch swing over above the bed, like from the center line to the railing here in the bed. And you know, this tailstock is kind of sketch, the way it doesn't clamp on very good, so on and so forth. So recently I upgraded. I found somebody selling another lathe. Now let me show you the difference in size here. So there. Old lathe, new lathe. She's a full 4 feet long from stem to stern. And trying to get her rigged up now. Should be fun. Doing all kinds of stuff. When I took the old lathe apart, I had the motor mounted back here and stuff, and I was going to reuse the motor because I like the look of it. But the more I looked, the more sketch the wiring was. The wiring was very sketchy. So then I started looking at rewiring, and I wanted to mount the motor a certain way for the new lathe. And then I don't know. It sort of lost its charm after a while. So I'm going to use the motor that came with the new one. It's really, I don't know if it's an advantage technically, but it's just a motor that's wired better and more reliably. And putting some new wire on it here and there. And we'll get to her. Alright, things are looking pretty lazy up in here. Pleased with this. So instead of having an entire sheet of plywood with the lathe and motor and everything mounted to it, I went with kind of a sheet of scrap here, about a foot wide, a little ways back, and over here, just a little foot kind of to even the end up. This is the motor that came with the lathe. Hopefully it's okay. It runs. This is the 4-groove pulley off my old motor, because this has a 4-groove pulley in the headstock. Now I have a 4-speed transmission-ish. I've wired a very sketch little sort of temporary wiring situation here. So it should fire up. Belt tension is suspect at best, but by the G's, she runs. Very pleased about that, and it's a substantial increase, if nothing else, in the amount of cast iron involved. Very heavy duty. I've gained one hand lever. The old one had a lever here, but a bolt head here. The bolts here, this is big chunky stuff here, like 1-inch square nut on here and on here, so may have to rig up a little bit of a tool for that instead of just relying on the left-handed Swedish nut blaster. However, she runs, so super duper pleased. Looks pretty good to me. Works. She's spinning on the drive dogs here. It's not set tight enough, but otherwise, works. Hot diggity.